what's the lowest point competitively VGC sit over years? All right, so there are like 3 low points. I will explain all of them. So VGC started in like 2009, right? And it was small in 2009. It was actually like, well, now this stupid like woke. It was like weird Uber format. No one knew what it was. It was really weird. Like, why would you play that when you could just play singles? Gen 4 singles was like in its prime. There's no reason to play VGC 2009. 2010, another weird format. It's its own little thing. It's getting a little bit more traction. Not important. 2011 is when it got onto Gen 5, onto the like DS. A lot of people, I think the 3DS was starting to come out around then. So 2011 was like the first time that like you actually started to ever even see ever for any reason any sort of VGC content on the internet. You would see pictures or like videos people took with like actual camcorders. You know, phones didn't even really have. Not everyone's phone had cameras back then, and if they did, it was the most pixelated piece of garbage. But there were no like streams, there were no other things like that. So 2011 was a good format for like growing the scene. People started to kind of develop a meta. That's like, I think, one of the years that Ray won as well. So Ray Rizzo started like doing really well around 2011, 2010. And then 2012 was the first like expanded decks that we really have without restricteds. So you could use things like Landorus, you could use things like Latios and stuff like that. So 2012 was a good format. And 2013 was the last format that we had, and that was Black and White 2. It was another expanded one. I've been uploading content for that format on my main YouTube channel. If you guys want to go see that, it was yesterday's video. I think we were uploading 2013 content. So the game's just steadily growing. And then going into 2014, that is the first time that we have the 3DS X and Y. We get regionals with like over 1,000 people showing up, and they have to like turn people away, and like regionals are like exploding. It's so big. A lot of people have capture cards. That's when VGC really took off, is like 2014. People start making YouTube videos, Reddit, Discords, everything. Right? So anyways, 2014, cool format, right? 2014 is cool, very popular, lot of hype, right? You've been stuck in ads, Lamau. So yeah, that's 2014 is like the game's just going up. 2015, Ultra Sun and Moon. The game continues to expand. A lot of people started playing. 2014 was the year that Sejun Park won the World Championships with Pachirisu. So we're getting a huge boost of like brand new players that are seeing that players can use like anti-meta picks like Pachirisu, use their favorites to do win. 2015 was like the big part of the game, right? It's huge. Thank you so much for the sub. Appreciate it. 2015 is like absolutely huge. And what happens after 2015 is we go into our first real restricted format since 2009. And that is double restricted with like Xerneas, Yveltal, Primal Groudon, Primal Rayquaza. And I kid you not, our regionals went from like almost 1,000 people at some of them, 700-800 people on a lot of the West Coast ones, to like, by the end of 2016, there were like 30, 40 person regionals, right? There were like 30 people, 40 people regionals in 2016. That's the year that Wolf won Worlds. So think about it. So like Pokemon got really like squeezed because like basically we used to have, we used to have rules for a whole year, right? So imagine like 2015, the game's better than it's like ever been. It's so amazing. Thank you for gifting all these subs. Conspiracy says Judy threw that game against Sejun for the good of the VGC growth. I don't think so. I think that Judy had a lot of other things going on. If you go back and watch it, like, this is a weird matchup for Judy. I don't think he threw it. But thank you so much for all the gifted subs. Judy was under a lot of pressure, being like the American player in that situation. More pressure than you might think. Anyways. So let's talk about 2015. Biggest the game's ever been. We're starting to get people like Zhang, myself, a lot of other content creators making VGC exclusive content. We got Justin Flynn making a lot of content. It's streaming on Twitch. Twitch is now like a platform. Twitch was starting to get into its own around 2013. By the time 2015 rolls around, it's a big platform. We're getting regionals streamed on Twitch. VODs are getting uploaded to YouTube. The game's growing huge. And then in 2016, we get a restricted format. Again, 2 restricteds, 2 legendaries, Ubers, that could be primals, they could be all these other crazy things. And every little bit of the format was solved before it even came out. They announced the rules in like July, and then in August the rules start up again. So like the rules are known in like July and August, and sorry, October is when the new format starts. But like, so Worlds for 2015 was in, it was also like a pretty stale Worlds that year. Chalk won, so a pretty boring team that outvalued people with legendaries won. So not only did we not have like a great World Championships, where like a boring legendary team won, our next format was like only legendaries, all legendaries. It was so much legendaries, and the very first team that like won the first event, which was like it was called Big Six: Primal Groudon, Xerneas, Smeargle, Talonflame, Kangaskhan, Salamence. That team would be the best team for a whole year. So imagine from August until August, like, that's the team that you fight in 90% of your games. And you could say, well, that's fine. We just like develop the meta and check it. There is no developing the meta versus like Dark Void Smeargle. Every game is just a game of speed ties and sleep turns. It was the worst like team building. You could not outbuild your way out of a bad problem. It was all speed ties. Everyone had the same stuff. It was so bad. It was so bad. And so literally like all these, and they started charging money for regionals. That was like the first real time that regionals were like starting to be more expensive. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, all these gifted subs. You guys are way too kind. Fargo's way too kind. He's the one gifting all the subs. Thank you. Right? You're done. Thank you. I appreciate you. It helps. So regionals started to be more, they started charging regionals. Regionals used to be free, right? And they started charging for regionals. And so every casual player that like just followed the game and like went to regionals with their friends and stuff like that evaporated almost overnight. One of the first, like, I think we had like 400-esque people near the start of the format in events. And then it got down to like 30 or 40, 50 people regionals by the end. And that's the year that Wolf won. If I actually have this to say, if Wolf did not win the World Championships that year, we would not have VGC as it is now. We would not. An American player winning Worlds saved the game, 100%. Chalk and Big Six are so crazy to hear about. I've been looking for a history video that goes over the meta of every year VGC. There just isn't anything like what I'm looking for. I can answer any possible question you might have. Like, I went to a ton of events during those times. I've done all the things that you'd think would need to be done during those times. It's just that like a lot of the people that went around, like, we're still not over it, bro. We're still mad, right? And so, yeah, 2016 Wolf won Worlds, which kind of gave the game a little bit of hope and light because the next game was going to be on the 3DS as well, and it was going to be Sun and Moon, Gen 7. So again, they're going away from the restricteds. They're going back to a more limited dex format to where there's less legendaries, there's Z moves. Like, yes, we're losing Mega Evolution, but it's still in the game, and like everyone gets a fresh start. And so we saw the numbers go back up from like 30 or 40 player regionals all the way back up to like, 5, 6, sometimes 700 on the polarizing like West and East Coast and like the big capitals like New York's, Florida's, and California. And 2017 was a good format. So 2017, a lot of people played, a lot of people liked it. Again, it gave everyone like a second chance to kind of get their Pokemon itch out. And it was good. We saw our numbers go back up. It wasn't nearly as bad as 2016. And then in 2018, we went to Ultra Sun and Moon. I think actually, no. We might have went to 2018 Ultra Sun and Moon, or we might have still been on Sun and Moon. I don't remember. But it was a expanded format, which was the same thing they did going from 2012 to 2013, where it's basically the same, but now you can use Megas, and now you can use like Z moves and the Megas, and like you could use a couple other mechanics, but you still can't use the broken Ubers, right? Which like a lot of people really like 2018. And I had a weird relationship with 2018 because like some Megas were like way more busted than others. And I liked the format. I won events in the format, not like regionals, but I won a lot of grassroots tournaments in that format. 2018 was a good format. You had things like, so legendaries were good, like Cresselia was good, Heatran was good, Landorus was good, but there were like good checks of them. You had Megas, every single team had a Mega, and it felt like every single team had an identity. I guess the closest thing you would compare 2018 to is what we have right now with this single restricted format where you had like a deck master or like a team captain. Like your Mega was like your identity, and you kind of took that Mega and tried to like solve all the other matchups. And another cool thing about it is like by the time you got to the end of 2018, you saw teams that had like 2 or 3 different Megas per team that you would have to like 2-2-2. It was like the start of like basically, I would say, what competitive Pokemon is now, when like all of the player base kind of had leveled up by that point in 2018. And then this is where, you know, the original question here was, what was the lowest point in competitive Pokemon? And that's 2019. 2019, they did something that they've never done. All the way up until now, we've had these formats for a whole year. You get them in like July or August, and then they start back up in October, and you have them for all the way through next year, and then even into the next year, going all the way up until December, and then the format always starts on the 1st, right? Paywall had already happened. We're already paying $30, $40 for these regionals. Now, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. They go back to a double restricted format, or sorry, they will be going back to a double restricted format in just a sec. But they're going back to a restricted format where you're going to be using these legendaries. And what they did is, instead of giving you a format for a whole year, they said, we're going to cut the format up into 3 formats, right? From, what was it? I think they said from like August until December, it'll be Sun Series. And then from the end of December until April, it'll be Moon Series. And then from like April till the end of the year, past Worlds, it will be your best format. I know, but it's, you know I'm right though. You know I'm right. That'll be Ultra Series. And so the Sun Series was set to where you can use 1 restricted, no Z moves, no Megas, no Primals. That was the worst freaking format of Pokemon ever created for any reason. I will not debate this. Like, it was so ass. And the fact that it was our first one for that format, it killed, like, our player base, like, ran from the game. It was so freaking bad. Every single team was Scarf Ogre. I have a video talking about, like, how bad it was. The blender that you set people into with, like, Torn Ogre, Ludicolo, Serena Cart, with Scarf Ogre, Speed Ties, and, like, oh, it was just the worst fucking format. It was so freaking bad. There was no outplay to it. Groudon, you can't pivot in your Groudon on a Kyogre because you just double tap the Groudon. Groudon can't tear away. You have no options. There's, like, no counterplay to it. There's no Miraidon. There's no Shadow Rider. There's no good Trick Room options, right? You're cooked. You have no, like, outplay to this Ogre. Right? What's Ogre? Kyogre. This thing. Right? And every team's just Scarf Ogre with, like, different amounts of, like, fake out pins and tailwinds. You didn't start comp until 2020, started in Battle Stadium singles, moved to VGC 2022, then OU singles. Yeah, so it's a little bit before, and so that was the very start of the format. And so we went from having events in 2018, there were like 200 or 300, like, you know, 2018 was the end of the lifespan for that format, on the, one of the lifespans on the format for the 3DS, but, like, we had decent attendance through most of the 2018 events. 2019 happens, they say, all right, we're changing it, your rules are going to be, like, this brand new, stupid Scarf Kyogre format. Ruins the game. And then in Moon Series, which is from December to April, you had, okay, you still get the 1 restricted, but now you can use a Z move. So now that actually gives, like, options. Now you can, like, have your Ogre, but then have, like, a mom with a Z move that, like, pins their Ogre, so you could, like, do other stuff instead of just having Ogres fight each other. They changed the names of the different levels of competitions too, right? When did locals start giving championship points or helping qualify for Worlds? I feel bad for the Pokemon professors recently after they implemented more changes. All right, we've talked about that too, but locals started giving points back in 2014. 2014. Before, like, it used to only really get points, like 2013, there weren't even locals. And then 2014, locals started giving, like, points, but, like, it realistically, you could only earn points in, like, so, like, it was similar to, like, how this Ultra Sun and Moon series worked. Like, there were seasons. So, like, the first half of the year, you could hit your point total. And, like, the middle of the year, you could hit your point total. And the end of the year, you could hit your point total. And you could only get, like, 20-ish points from locals. So they didn't actually really matter, in my opinion. And that was before, but before, like, right now, what we have is, like, a CP threshold where, like, just the top 75 people in North America get an invite. Before, you had to get, like, a certain amount. You had to get, like, 200 or 300. And that way, if you got that through all the locals and the regionals and the nationals. And there were also, like, BFLs that were really, really low back in the day. So, like you had to get points from all of your regionals. And, like, it didn't give points out to the top 32. You had to get, like, top 16 to get, like, anything. And it was rough. But we're currently talking about Moon Series in the middle of 2019. That opened the door for things like Lunala and other mons that had specific Z moves, like Alolan Raichu, Incineroar with the, what was that Incineroar move that was always copyright claimed on YouTube? Not Darkest Lariat, but what was it? Malicious Moonsault. So there are other options there. to actually like see play. And then so that format was shit too, by the way. So we went from a shit format of Sun Series, which is a Scarf Ogre format, to like Scarf Ogre format version 2.0 with more wide guard users. Right? What's Z move? So Z move is an item that you can hold called a Z crystal that would increase the power. Like, so if the Palkia here held like a dragon Z crystal, it would increase the power of this like dragon breath or its dragon move to like a 170 base move and just make it like a nuke. And you can use it whenever you feel like, but you can only use one per game. Right? It was a weird buffed move, yeah. And so what you would see is like people that wanted to do like, you'd see like mixed sweepers. So like Groudon could have like something like, not Groudon because it wasn't, well, you wouldn't really use Z move Groudon all that often, but like what you would see is like Arcanine, for example, a fire attacker would have like Wild Charge and then have like the Z electric crystal to be able to pin water types, right? What if you Z moved into Protect? That, yeah, and Z move can be used on a bunch of other things. Like if you Z moved into like a Sleep Powder, you would Sleep Powder and get a speed boost. Protect, when you went Z Protect, it gave you a, like a cleared all your negative stats. So it was actually viable in some situations, but it usually wasn't worth your item. So like Porygon could do that sometimes if it had like a weird speed drop or something, while also still being able to use on like offensively. Extreme Evo boost. Well, that's for Eevee. Only Eevee could do that. Yeah, Zemo Como was fire. It was good. Zemo Como was very good in 2019. That was another thing that like kind of saved the Moon series. Like Como was a kind of good check to Kyogre. And then the last level was like, remember, all of our casuals have bled out. The only people that are playing these games are like the vets, the sweaty people, the people that are chasing their world's invites. Yeah, Z-Moves also did 25% through Protect. The only people that are playing this game are the sweatiest tryhards in existence. Everyone else has moved on to other games, other systems. You gotta remember, playing a 3DS in the year 2019, that system's like 10 years old. It's so... Like, the Switch was already out, by the way, guys. The Switch is out in 2019, and we're sitting here at these events that we're paying out the wazoo for in a shit format with a 3DS. It is so stupid. And you don't even need, like, a 3DS, like, XL. Like, people, you could be playing on a system that's, like, 10 years old, just a regular 3DS. Gyarados didn't used to get bounce. You had to get an event Gyarados with bounce to use Airstream, and that's what people used. That was in 2018. That was very big. Ultra Series, though, was the end of that year, and that was, they took all the bars off. You could use 2 restricteds, you could use Megas, Primals, Z-Moves, all of it, and that format was actually good. I know it sounds terrible, but they basically said, yo, if everything gets baseball bats, nothing's broken, and it worked. It was a good format. I like 2019. It took me a while to get around to it, but like I took a team that I got at least top 48. Because I got right behind Diamond and he got top 32 with like freaking Palkia, Gothitelle, Ditto, at like a really weird regional in 2019. And Diamond got top cut with, or he got top 32 with Toxapex Ho-Oh, right? So yeah, I think that was in Knoxville, right? So did they make those 3 terrible formats in a row, specifically We Are the Casuals? No, I think they really did that because they hadn't... So, Pokemon Company is a company, right? There are more plushies and more products that are made than just Pikachu and Eevee. So if they want to sell Kyogre merch, and they want to put Kyogre in the games and make these primal Kyogres and things in Ultra Sun and Ruby and sell the merch for it, they have to have a format where it's legal, right? You got top 16, so that means I got top 32. I got right outside of where you were. And so you may be thinking like, oh, you got top 32, that's so good. Bro, there was like 50 people in the freaking tournament. Like, am I wrong? There was less than 80, right? And that's like a stacked location. I think we had less than 80. I know we did, right? I think there was probably about 60 people in the regional. And so like all of the casuals... And I don't want to say casual is like a bad thing, but all of the people that were interested in playing just completely like dipped away. They're just gone by the end of 2019. They're so gone. And because we also had like a whole year of like different only legendary formats. And people just don't like playing with legendaries. They don't. It's not something that people really know how to do internally. And they think legendaries are broken because that's the stigma set about by like singles players and stuff like that. You think Megazord will be back in ranked? Oh, definitely. But like, they have to be back in the game first. We don't even know if there's going to be like ways to transfer them from other games. Yeah, so that's 2019. And 2019 was good. 2019 ended well. It was a good Worlds. Like, I think it was a good format. A lot of different ways to play that format. But going into 2020, right? We had one event in Sword and Shield, all right? And that's Sword and Shield, just like Sun and Moon, just like X and Y, humongous boost to our player base. 2020 was like, how do I word this? It's close to being what you guys know the scene as now. The Pokemon Company took hold of the reins. They're like, we're producing all these regionals. We're doing this. It's the start of like the analyst desks and exactly what you know regionals as today. It started in 2020. Sorry. So 2020, Sword and Shield, we actually had two regionals. We had Dallas and I want to say like a New Jersey regional, Newark. I think that's 2020. And then right after that, the pandemic hit. And so we took all this hype into this game and they put it online. And they made you do like online qualifiers through international challenges. And if you placed highly in those, you would get put in like an open team sheet-esque like bracket they're called Players' Cups. I think Wolf won one. I think I qualified for all of them, which was, the hard part was qualifying in my opinion. You play if you want. But those are basically the equivalent for regionals during the pandemic. And that happened through all of like 2020. I'm trying to remember, did we go to any regionals in 2021? Were there regionals in 2021? There might have been. I remember going to Utah in 2022, which now they're back on their restricted. They went back to restricted mons for that one. And I was using like Zekrom. So it was back to single restricted format for 2022. And then 2023, we got double restricted back. I believe we got, yeah, because I used Yveltal Duskmane in 2023 at Milwaukee and a couple other regionals. And so again, 2023, very similar to how like 2019 and 2016 were. By the time you get that double restricted format, all of your casuals from like the start of the game when people get the game and are excited to play have like melted off. I think Milwaukee had like 100 people tops. And then we start up 2024, and that is this format. And I qualified for Worlds last year. We're back up into like all the regionals always sell out. There's usually at least 500 people at every single regional. They low cap the tickets. 2023 Worlds was horribly mismanaged. That was 2023 Worlds. You're right. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I didn't go to that one. That was in Yokohama. That was the first Worlds for Scarlet and Violet, I think. Yeah. But anyways, that's my history lesson. I fills it out at the end because you guys already know all this shit at the end. But yeah, that's the history lesson. That's the history of VGC. In terms of the lowest points that we've ever had in the game, 2016 was a really low point. All of 2019 was a really low point. Right before Scarlet and Violet came out, we saw another low point in Sword and Shield. And right now, we're about to go into a low point for Scarlet and Violet, right? So we're getting to a low point right here because we're waiting for news on the new Switch thing. We're waiting news on a new Legends game and stuff like that. And the only people that really go to these regionals are like sweaty tryhards. That's kind of how it works.